Hello, everyone. My name's Nat. Today, we are going to be taking the Exceptional Individuals Dyslexic Characteristic Quiz. All you need to do is go to www.exceptionalindividuals.com and follow along. So, the idea is that getting a diagnosis is really expensive and the waiting list is horrendous. So, we created some characteristic quizzes. And the idea was it isn't to definitively tell you but it's about to give you a ballpark idea whether or not it's worth investigating. So yeah, let's jump into it. So when you're on the main homepage, nice and simple, all you need to do is go to neurodivergent tests and go down to dyslexia. And when you click dyslexia, you'll get this page. It'll tell you a little bit about the neurodivergence. About 1 in 10 people have it, about 700 million people worldwide. A lot of people have dyslexia, so the likelihood you having it is also quite high. And a lot of people only find out later in life. Ideally, the sooner you can find out, the better, because then you can put support strategies in place. Yeah, we've just got some common information here, some strengths that are associated, potential roles that could be appropriate. But what we're interested in is taking the dyslexic quiz. Here we give you a couple of things. Who is the test for? Essentially, it's for everyone to get an idea, to start a conversation. The results do not equal a diagnosis, but they will give you a starting point. You can record your results and take them to your GP. Give them a helping hand. Here is the quiz. What's your name? Let's go with Nat. Nat, do you have any of the following? Yeah, I've got dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism. Click all the ones that apply. If you do not have an official diagnosis, it doesn't matter. These are just about conditions you resonate with. A lot of these conditions are co-occurring, meaning if you have one, you probably have another one, or the likelihood is quite high. Do you miss out words or lose your place when reading? When you're answering these quizzes, what I recommend is answer it from, is this something that you do consistently for 6 months or more? And does it impact your life in a negative way? On all of them. Okay, so do you miss out words or lose your place in reading? For me personally, all the time. I consider myself a very creative reader. Do you mix up similar words such as dog and God? So I always get knife and fork mixed up. I know what a fork is, but I still call it a knife. Things along those lines. Yeah, again, for me, it is almost always. When you're younger, you are probably making these mistakes all the time. As you become an adult, these mistakes are going to look like they're disappearing. They're not disappearing. You're just getting better at managing them. Is this something which happens over a long period of time, not just right now? Because you might be having a bad day or a really good day, which could skew the results. Do you confuse the name of certain objects? Yep, like I said, all the time, calling a table chair a table, a dog a cat. It's not that you do not know what those objects are, but your brain is trying to get to the quickest route possible, and it may make some mistakes. I will say, yeah, sometimes it happens fairly regularly for me. Do you often get lost or arrive really late to meetings when you aren't putting any additional barriers in place to stop you slipping through the net? I do get lost quite easily. This isn't a scientific test, though it is based on scientific research. Do you confuse your left from your right? I always have to go like lefty loosey, like the L shape with my hand. This isn't about a reflection of your intelligence. It's about how quick your brain is able to retrieve information when it is called upon. Do you find it hard to follow several instructions all at one time? Yeah, it is difficult. If you give me one task, do it, then another task, plain sailing. But if I have to do, okay, can do that, my brain is going to struggle to prioritize. It's going to probably focus on the low hanging fruit, and I'm going to probably struggle. So, yeah, almost always on this one for myself. If you have all of these as almost always, it doesn't equal dyslexia. It just means a higher likelihood. But equally, you could have hardly any of these, but still have dyslexia because this isn't really a tick list. It's more about how much one of these affects your day to day life. Do you read a page multiple times to understand it? Most people with dyslexia can absolutely read, but it's comprehension which takes the hit. So an example is when you read, you might get to parts, but you have difficulty remembering what a book as a whole. I have read loads of books. If you genuinely ask me what happened in them, I'm going to be able to give you like a very brief summary. Do you make any mistakes when taking down phone numbers? Are you the type of person who needs numbers read out per digit, like 1, 2, 3? Or are you someone can say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're like, okay, yeah, I know, brilliant. If you struggle to retain the information or the sequencing of numbers, that is another classic sign of dyslexia. Now, this can definitely overlap with other conditions like dyscalculia, but it doesn't have to be related to dyscalculia. Speaking of that, I still can't remember my own telephone number. I've had it for 15 years. Do you find it difficult to find the right word to say? And you know what you want to say, you're just not able to say that. Maybe it takes you a little bit longer to process words, by which case you're left looking like you didn't really contribute. Sometimes words can feel like they're on the tip of your tongue, and even though they are there, they may only pop into your head long after conversation has finished. How often do you think of creative solutions to problems? This is all about innovating. If you spend your whole life swimming upstream, going the difficult route, you are probably going to be quite good at problem solving. So this is something that comes as a result of always hitting dead ends. You become a lot more innovative. Do you find it difficult to put your ideas on paper? I would say this is the bare necessities of dyslexia. When someone at school talks about dyslexia, it's always about they've got the ideas in their head, they just can't get it onto paper. The ideas in your head and getting down onto paper requires a lot of different sequencing. And along the way, the brain loses interest. It's more complicated than that, but that's the way that I understand it. The example for this is using simpler sentences when writing than when speaking. So when you're speaking, maybe you have a fantastic vocabulary, but you do tend to dumb yourself down when you're writing. So your writing doesn't reflect your intelligence or overall knowledge the way that spoken word would. It's quite difficult. Do you find it when you're reading out loud? I'm tripping up over my words all the time. So clearly quite difficult. I've learned to embrace it now, but are you the type of person that always stumbling over words? When you're reading out loud, you struggle to also comprehend. Yeah, it's difficult again. How do you find it when sounding out long words? When we read, we use phonologics. This is understanding that you can break words into sections like dyslexia. It's an algorithm. All the codes and pieces of puzzles are already there. All we have to do is remember the code and use it to put the words together. If you've seen a word before, that's quite easy. But if you haven't seen the word before, those with dyslexia often struggle to use that kind of algorithm or puzzle that we've been taught in school. And long words may be difficult to near impossible to be able to work out. How do you find it remembering the alphabet in order? And I'm not talking about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. I'm talking about on the cuff. What comes after O? What comes after J? What comes after P? If you cannot do that instantaneously without doing the rhyme, I would probably say you find that quite difficult. I can do it sometimes, not with the middle ones. All right, we're almost there, I promise. 17. How did you find it when you were doing your times tables? So multiplication. To this day, I can only probably do my 2 times tables. If you give me ample time, I'll be able to work it out. I'm just not able to retrieve it instantaneously. So I'm going to very difficult. Okay, we're almost there. All right, let me just put in my email address. Let's submit that. And no, this is not an official diagnosis. Okay, we knew that. Essentially, take this with a massive grain of salt. However, it appears that you have signs consistent of severe dyslexia. Ah, shock. Dyslexia doesn't really vary in terms of like severe and stuff, but this does illustrate the amount of characteristics that you may share with someone who has been officially diagnosed. We've got videos on here which you can watch, and this is where I go through all the questions in a lot more detail. If you're curious to find out a bit more, do check out our YouTube channel. You can also go on the website, which will learn a bit more about dyslexia. If you are an adult, if you're in the UK, in full-time employment or part-time over a certain amount of hours, you are eligible for a workplace needs assessment. This means you can get support, equipment, assistance in the workplace, and you do not need to be officially diagnosed. We also have loads of free events if you want to learn more about your dyslexia or potential dyslexia. And we have loads of other great characteristic quizzes, which you are very welcome to do and learn more about. I hope you found that interesting and useful. Maybe we'll do more of these in the future, but good luck on learning to understand yourself and contact us if you ever need some help.